The studio lights blazed, the crowd buzzing with restless energy as the broadcast went live. At the center, Denzel Washington sat upright, his eyes sharp, his voice steady but cutting. He wasted no time. "America is standing on the edge of a cliff," he declared, pointing directly across the stage at Donald Trump. "And you, sir, are pushing us closer every single day. This isn't just about politics anymore, it's about betrayal. A betrayal of the Constitution itself." Gasps echoed through the audience, their attention locked in. Trump leaned forward, his face flushed, already bracing to strike back, but Denzel pressed on. "The Constitution is not your toy, not your brand, not your reality show gimmick. It's the backbone of our republic. And you've been bending it, breaking it, spitting on it, just to feed your ego. How many crises can this nation survive under your recklessness? How many lines can you cross before America stops being America?" The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air like a storm about to break. Denzel's tone grew heavier, every syllable aimed like a hammer. "You swore to protect this country. Instead, you've endangered it. You swore to uphold the law. Instead, you've twisted it for personal gain. This isn't leadership, it's sabotage." Trump finally snapped, slamming his palm on the desk. "Sabotage? You don't know what you're talking about," he roared. But the audience wasn't convinced. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some nodding with Denzel's words, others shifting uncomfortably at Trump's outburst. Denzel leaned back, calm yet unyielding, eyes fixed on Trump. "America doesn't need excuses. It needs truth. And tonight, the truth is simple: your betrayal has brought us to the brink." The camera zoomed in on Trump's shaken face, capturing the moment his usual confidence cracked. And just like that, the hook was set, the stage for an explosive showdown laid bare, the tension in the studio grew thicker with each passing second. Trump, visibly rattled, tried to regain control. He straightened his tie, leaned toward the microphone, and barked, "I've done more for this country than anyone in history. I built an economy like no one's ever seen, I kept America strong, and I'll never apologize for putting America first." His words echoed, but the audience's response was muted, unsure, waiting for Denzel's next move. Denzel leaned forward, his expression firm, his voice calm but sharp as steel. "Putting America first? No, what you did was put yourself first. Every executive order, every public stunt, every attack on the press, it wasn't about protecting the people, it was about protecting your image." He paused, letting the silence weigh heavy before continuing. "And when it came to the Constitution, you treated it like an obstacle. You undermined checks and balances. You pressured courts. You attacked institutions designed to keep leaders like you in line. That's not strength, it's betrayal." The audience gasped, some clapping, others frozen in shock. Trump's jaw clenched, his face reddening. "You're an actor, Denzel. Stick to Hollywood. You don't understand power, you don't understand what it takes to lead." His voice cracked as he tried to project dominance, but the words rang hollow. Denzel didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned even closer, his eyes piercing. "Power isn't about tearing down the foundation of this country to build your ego higher. Power is about protecting what's sacred, even when it costs you personally. The founders wrote the Constitution to stop men like you. And history will remember that." The crowd erupted, cheers, shouts, a few boos, but the dominant sound was applause. The cameras swung to capture the audience on their feet, clapping as Trump's face twisted between anger and disbelief. Denzel sat back, folding his hands, calm and unshaken. The contrast was unmistakable, Trump's fury against Denzel's unyielding steadiness. And the studio knew, they were witnessing not just a debate, but a reckoning. Trump slammed his hand on the desk, the sound reverberating through the studio like a gunshot. "Reckoning? Don't lecture me about America. I've sacrificed more than anyone here. I fought for jobs, I fought for borders, I fought against corrupt politicians who wanted to sell this country out. His voice shook, not with passion, but with desperation. Denzel slowly shook his head, his calmness a stark contrast. Sacrifice, he said softly, then raised his tone so every ear in the room could hear. You don't know the meaning of that word. Sacrifice is a soldier leaving his family to defend the Constitution. Sacrifice is a parent working 2 jobs so their kids can chase the American dream. Sacrifice is every citizen who believes in this country enough to put its values above themselves. He leaned in, his eyes locked on Trump. What you did wasn't sacrifice. It was self-preservation. And every move you made pushed us closer to a constitutional crisis. The audience murmured in agreement, their unease growing as the truth hit harder than Trump's rhetoric. Trump tried to laugh it off, waving his hand dismissively. Constitutional crisis? That's just liberal talking points. Nothing collapsed under me, America was strong. But Denzel didn't let him breathe. Strong? You called the press the enemy of the people. You dismissed courts when rulings didn't favor you. You ignored oversight, mocked tradition, and treated institutions like props in your show. That's not strength, it's sabotage. His words cut like glass, the room falling into stunned silence. Then, as if to hammer the point deeper, Denzel leaned back, his voice firm but steady. America doesn't break because of outside enemies. It breaks when leaders inside forget that they are servants of the Constitution, not masters of it. The audience erupted, cheers rising higher this time, echoing through the studio. Even those who had come in skeptical couldn't deny the clarity of his words. Trump sat frozen, his bravado flickering, his mask cracking under the weight of the truth. Trump tried to recover, leaning forward with his signature smirk, but his voice betrayed a tremor. You're an actor, Denzel. You live in scripts, not reality. You don't understand the weight of the Oval Office. You don't know what it takes to keep a country standing when enemies circle us every day. Denzel didn't flinch. He let the insult hang in the air for a moment, then delivered his reply with surgical precision. Scripts? His voice was calm, but carried an edge that sliced straight through. I've played men who stood for something bigger than themselves, men who understood honor, duty, and sacrifice. And you know what? Even in fiction, they held more respect for the Constitution than you ever showed in reality. The audience gasped, laughter breaking out on one side, a wave of applause on the other. Denzel's composure made the sting even sharper. Trump, visibly rattled, raised his hand as if to swat the words away, but his face had flushed a deep red. You think you're better than me? Trump barked. You think America needs lectures from Hollywood instead of leadership from a fighter like me? Denzel stood, his presence commanding every corner of the studio. His voice was steady, not shouting, but amplified by conviction. What America doesn't need, he declared, is a man who mistakes power for service. What America doesn't need is a leader who puts himself before the very Constitution he swore to protect. You didn't fight for America, you fought for yourself. The room erupted again, half the crowd roaring approval, half stunned into silence. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's clenched jaw, his hands gripping the edge of the table as if holding on for stability. The cracks in his confidence were widening, and everyone watching could feel it. Trump leaned back in his chair, trying to summon the swagger that had carried him through countless rallies. But this wasn't a crowd he could dominate with slogans. This was Denzel Washington, standing across from him, and the weight of every word felt like a hammer hitting steel. Denzel, Trump sneered, people don't care about your fancy speeches. They care about jobs, borders, and strength. And I gave them all of that. The Constitution? It's a piece of paper. What matters is results. The audience gasped audibly. A murmur rippled through the room, like a warning siren. Denzel's eyes narrowed, and he stepped closer, his voice dropping into a tone so sharp it cut the tension in two. Did you just call the Constitution a piece of paper? He demanded. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. That document is the heartbeat of America. Men and women bled and died for the freedoms written in it. And you, standing here, after swearing an oath, have the audacity to dismiss it because it doesn't bend to your ego? Trump's mouth opened, but no words came. His jaw clenched, his shoulders stiffened, but the fight seemed to drain from his face. The camera caught every twitch, every flicker of unease. Denzel pressed forward, not with volume, but with gravity. You don't serve America when you ignore the very foundation it was built on. You weaken it. You make us vulnerable. And the worst part? You don't even see it. Because in your world, everything, people, laws, truth, it's all just a tool for your power. A burst of applause exploded from the crowd, echoing like thunder. Trump shifted in his seat, attempting a dismissive laugh, but the sound rang hollow, almost pitiful. The room knew, this was no longer just a debate. It was an indictment. The camera zoomed in tight, broadcasting every detail of Trump's reaction to millions watching live. His face flushed, and his hand slapped the armrest of his chair as though force could restore control. Don't lecture me about patriotism, Denzel, Trump snapped, his voice rising. I've done more for this country than any actor reading lines on a screen. You're just a Hollywood mouthpiece. I built towers, I ran businesses, I led America to greatness. The audience didn't cheer. Instead, a murmur of disbelief spread. Denzel stood motionless for a moment, letting Trump's words echo and collapse under their own weight. Then, with deliberate calm, he shook his head. Greatness? Denzel repeated softly, but the word carried venom. You confuse wealth with greatness. You confuse applause with leadership. And you confuse tearing down the very laws that protect us with power. That's not greatness, Donald, that's weakness. That's betrayal. The crowd erupted again, applause and shouts blending into a storm. Trump leaned forward, trying to interrupt, but Denzel raised a hand, not in anger, but in authority. The gesture silenced the room. Every president, Denzel continued, his voice firm but steady, is tested by crisis. Some rise to the challenge. Some stumble. But you? You create the crisis. You twist our Constitution into a shield for yourself, and a weapon against your critics. And that, Donald, is why America is standing on the edge right now. Trump pounded the table, shouting, lies. All lies. But even as he yelled, the sweat on his forehead glistened under the lights, betraying the panic beneath the bluster. Denzel's composure, his cutting words, and the audience's swelling support turned the stage into a battlefield Trump couldn't control. The tension was electric, the air heavy with the sense that history was unfolding in real time. Trump's voice cracked as he tried to shout over the noise. You're nothing but an actor. You don't know the first thing about running a country. His fist slammed the table, rattling the microphones. But the fury in his tone only made his desperation clearer. Denzel didn't flinch. He stepped closer, closing the distance, his calm presence cutting through Trump's chaos like a blade. You're right about one thing, Donald, he said. I am an actor. But I don't pretend when it comes to truth. And right now, you're acting too, acting like a strong man, acting like a leader. The difference? I step off stage when the curtain falls. You've turned the Oval Office into your stage, and America pays the price for your performance. The audience gasped. Phones shot up, recording every second. The clip was destined to explode online within hours. Trump's jaw tightened. His eyes darted nervously to the cameras, then back to Denzel, searching for control he couldn't grasp. This is a witch hunt. Trump barked, his voice trembling. I'm the victim here. Denzel leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper that forced the room into silence. Victim? No, Donald. The victims are the veterans whose sacrifices you cheapen. The victims are the workers you've cheated. The victims are the citizens who trusted you to defend the Constitution, not shred it for your ego. Applause thundered, drowning Trump's attempts to respond. He gestured wildly, but his words were swallowed by the roar of approval for Denzel's truth. Trump tried one last time, standing up and pointing at Denzel. "You're un-American," he shouted. Denzel simply smiled, calm but fierce. "No, Donald. What's un-American is thinking you're bigger than the Constitution. And the people see it now. They see through you." The studio lights seemed to intensify at that moment, illuminating not Trump's rage, but Denzel's unshakable resolve. The studio audience was electric, half on their feet, half leaning forward as if witnessing a historic trial unfold. Trump's face reddened, his tie slightly askew as he struggled to regain dominance. "You don't understand politics, Denzel. You don't understand the deals, the power, the pressure. You're out of your league." His words tumbled out, sharp but unsteady. Denzel crossed his arms, his stance rooted like an oak tree. He didn't need to shout. His presence itself silenced the chaos. "Donald, power isn't about deals in back rooms or loyalty bought with fear. Power in America comes from trust, the trust of the people. And you've bankrupted that trust the way you've bankrupted casinos, airlines, and promises." Gasps rippled across the audience. The reference to Trump's infamous business failures hit hard, like a blade twisting in old wounds. Trump's eyes flickered with panic, but he forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. "Fake news," he bellowed, trying to rally his defense. "They've always been out to get me. Now you're part of the machine." He jabbed a finger at Denzel, his hand shaking. Denzel took a step closer, lowering his voice again, forcing the cameras and crowd to lean in. "I don't need a machine, Donald. I've built my career on truth and discipline. What have you built? A fragile empire of lies and lawsuits. And the cracks are showing. The whole country sees it." The words landed like a hammer blow. Applause erupted, echoing like thunder through the studio. The crowd chanted Denzel's name, their voices drowning out Trump's stammering protests. The moment felt less like a debate and more like a reckoning, the kind that carves itself into the history of public memory. Even the moderators sat frozen, their eyes darting between Trump's unraveling anger and Denzel's unflinching calm. It was clear, Trump was losing control, not just of the stage, but of the narrative itself. Trump leaned on the podium, gripping it so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His usual bravado seemed hollow, his words stumbling as he tried to reclaim authority. "You don't know what it's like, Denzel. The world is dangerous. China, Russia, Iran, they respect me because I'm strong. They fear me." His voice cracked on the word fear, betraying the fragility beneath his bluster. Denzel tilted his head, studying him like a man studying the cracks in a facade. Then, slowly, deliberately, he shook his head. "Donald, they don't fear you, they laugh at you. And worse? They use you. While you play strongman for the cameras, America weakens behind the curtain. That's the real danger." The room erupted again, some gasping, others clapping. A woman in the front row shouted, "Tell him, Denzel," while Trump supporters tried to drown her out with boos. The clash of voices created a chaotic soundtrack that perfectly matched the unraveling scene on stage. Trump slammed a fist on the podium, his face twisted with rage. "I made America rich again. I built jobs, I cut taxes, I made us great." He shouted so loudly that the microphone screeched with feedback. Denzel didn't flinch. Instead, he took a slow step forward, closing the space between them. His eyes locked onto Trump's like steel on glass. "You didn't build anything. You exploited. You cut corners. You cheated workers. And you divided this country for your own gain. That's not greatness, that's betrayal. For a long, charged second, silence fell. Even Trump's defenders stopped shouting. The word betrayal echoed like a bell tolling in a cathedral, impossible to ignore. Trump tried to respond, but his lips moved without sound. For the first time, the man who thrived on spectacle looked small under the stage lights, as if the weight of Denzel's words pressed down harder than any headline or poll ever could. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the sharp contrast, Trump's unraveling mask against Denzel's unwavering resolve. And in that moment, millions of viewers across America knew they were watching more than a debate, they were watching a judgment. The studio had become a battlefield of silence and echoes, every eye glued to the stage. The moderator whispered into his earpiece, producers panicked behind the glass, but no one dared to interrupt. This wasn't just TV anymore, it was history unfolding live. Trump's shoulders sagged under the lights, his jaw clenched but his voice faltering. "You don't understand power, Denzel, you don't understand the weight I carried." His words lacked the fire that once filled arenas, they sounded more like excuses than convictions. Denzel leaned forward, his tone calm yet cutting, his presence filling the air with a gravity that no camera trick could manufacture. "Power isn't about you, Donald. It's about the people you serve. And every time you used that office to enrich yourself, to stoke fear instead of unity, you betrayed the oath. You didn't just fail a job, you failed America." The audience, once divided in shouts and boos, now listened in stunned silence. Trump opened his mouth, but Denzel's voice rolled over him like a wave. "America isn't a brand. It isn't your stage. It isn't your bank account. America is a promise, one you broke again and again. And I won't let you sell it cheap any longer." Applause thundered through the room, building into a standing ovation that rattled the walls. Even some of Trump's usual allies shifted uncomfortably, clapping half-heartedly as cameras captured their hesitation. The image was damning, Denzel Washington standing tall, unwavering, while Trump looked diminished, cornered, almost pleading. The broadcast cut to millions of homes, Twitter feeds, and news alerts. Within minutes, hashtags trended worldwide, hashtag Denzel vs. Trump, hashtag broken promise, hashtag America on trial. Clips of Denzel's words flooded every platform, replayed again and again like a cultural earthquake. Trump turned to leave, muttering into the mic, but Denzel's final words froze him mid-step. "History will remember, Donald. And no slogan, no rally, no courtroom can erase what you've done. The truth doesn't fear you. It never did." The audience roared, sealing the night not as another debate, but as a reckoning. And as the credits rolled, one truth echoed louder than any chant: America had just witnessed the collapse of a brand, and the rise of a voice too powerful to silence. This wasn't just a debate tonight. It was a wake-up call. Denzel Washington's words struck millions: power doesn't lie in the chair, it lies with the people. The place Trump will have to answer is not just the studio, but history itself. America is no longer for sale. The truth, no matter how hard they try to bury it, will always speak the loudest.